I'm going to record the rest of our orientation so that we can share this with you all, but also for students who are unable to attend today. So thank you all for sharing your backgrounds. It sounds like we have a diversity of different careers that have been started and interest levels, so that's great. I'm going to hand off the floor for now to Dr. Paul Fossum.
Greetings to everyone, and thanks for being here today. I'm delighted to be with you and to bring greetings to you from my office as the Director of Graduate Studies for Master's Programs. I know from having had a hand in reviewing your application files that this cohort is extremely strong. I wanted to assure you that the faculty and the staff is just as strong as you are, and we're committed to your success. And I think that'll be demonstrated. The staff's commitment to your success will be amply demonstrated beginning today with the rest of our orientation. I'm happy to have you here. I wanted to also to urge you to be in strong and meaningful contact with your faculty that you're taking classes from. Very much committed to your success. The strengths, I think, of our college is that our faculty really invests itself in student success. So we're here to make a meaningful experience for you, and I'm very happy to be with you today and to answer any questions you may have. My email address is easy to find online, and it may even be included later on. We can answer any question you have. Greetings.
All right, thank you, Dr. Fossum. Dr. Brunvand, I did not get a chance to add a slide for you. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, that's okay. I'm Stein Brunvand. I'm currently serving as the Associate Dean in the College of Education, Health and Human Services. I'm also a Professor of Educational Technology, and I just would also like to welcome you and congratulate you on your acceptance into the program. We are excited to have you as students and starting classes in the fall. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have Dr. Wren to welcome you to the Department of Health and Human Services.
Yeah, greetings. I feel like I already know vicariously a number of you. I'm Patricia Wren, a professor of public health and chair of the Department of Health and Human Services. That means I have some connection to Danielle because it includes the undergraduate programs in Health and Human Services, but it also includes our Master of Science in Health Information Technology. So not only did I meet Minal's husband, but I worked for a great many years with Sumi Dinda and Lynn Williams and Kristen Landis Pivovar up at Oakland out of the BDTS program that Maria comes from. So I already feel like I know a lot about kind of the preparation and the healthcare background of this cohort, just given those of you who are on the call today. So I'm excited to congratulate you on your acceptance into the graduate program at the University of Michigan. I think sometimes we forget in the everydayness of repetition of things in coronavirus to actually still celebrate things. And we absolutely want to make sure that you know that being accepted into a graduate program from the University of Michigan itself is worthy of celebration. So we're happy to have you and welcome.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Wren. I also just wanted to point out too, there is the chat function is available to you. So if you do have questions as we go along, even if they're not related to what we're currently talking about, please feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll all be monitoring that so we can get your questions answered and announced so that everybody else can have the answers to those questions as well. All right. So we will get started here. I have not introduced myself yet. My name is Lindsay Bookman. I'm the Director of Advising and Records in the college and will be potentially one of your assigned advisors. And I'll have my colleague Jonathan introduce himself as well.
Hello, everybody. Jonathan Larson, Assistant Director of Advising, and I too am an advisor for a Health Information Technology student. So between Lindsay and I and the faculty, you're in good hands. And so it's exciting to meet you virtually. Usually we're doing this in person, so it's a little bit different, but it's still exciting that you're joining us for the HIT program, so welcome.
I also just want to give you a little background on the whole support team that you have for student success while you're with us for your health information technology program. We have what's called the CHESS Office of Student Success. When we're in person, we're located in the Fairlane Center, which is off of Hubbard Drive. And really what we're intended to be is kind of a one-stop shop for you all, so that you don't have to get bounced around, you know, to a bunch of different offices across campus to get the information that you need. We can always be your starting point. So you can always start with Jonathan and I as your advisors. We're located in this office. But we also have two program assistants, Elizabeth Morden and Amanda McBride. They are incredibly helpful in any sort of paperwork that you might need, or if you're looking to transfer credits, things like that, all paperwork that they can help you with, and the processes of getting registered for certain classes. They're available to assist with all of those things as well. Some of you may choose to do an internship as part of your program, and so you may work closely with Samika Aloyo, who is our field placement coordinator, as well as Dr. Shazia Khan, who would be the faculty supervisor as part of your internship, should you choose to do one. So you have a lot of support there as well, and can be introduced to the field in that way as well. We have also Donna Carey in our office, who you won't work with as much. She is our certification officer for our teacher certification students, people, you know, pursuing their initial certification and endorsements. But she is also a breadth of information and can be helpful to you as well in answering any questions you might have about campus. So we will be making this presentation available to you, as I mentioned, but our contact information is there as well. You can contact us at our phone number and we'll get voicemails, which we can then return calls. But the best way to reach us right now is the chess-oss@umich.edu email address. So a full team of supports for you while you're pursuing your degree here at UM-Dearborn. So what you're probably wondering more than anything is what classes you're going to take as part of this program. So I'm going to kind of navigate around our website a little bit. This is part of our new 2020-2021 catalog, which has not been published yet. So this won't be available to you just yet, but should be very, very soon. But just wanted to walk you through the different courses that are involved in the requirements for the Health Information Technology program. So you can see the top here are the core courses that are required for the program. And then you do get the opportunity to take 6 credits of electives. And that's really where you could take the opportunity to take an internship for credit if you'd like. And those internships can be taken up to 2 times for a total of 6 credits. So you could potentially use your entire elective area to do a year-long internship if you're interested in working with the same place, or even if you wanted to get a couple different experiences, you could do that as well. Patricia, do you want to talk a little bit about the content of the program?
Sure. The sort of origin story of the MS in Health Information Technology program is really one of kind of sort of typical for U of M Dearborn. We like to talk about our kind of maker history on this campus that forged out of a partnership with the University of Michigan and Ford Motor Company, with a really strong backbone, both in all of the engineering sciences and our historically strong College of Business. Health Information Technology really emerged as a partnership with this college in education, health and human services, and our partners in engineering, computer science, and business. And so what you see now as a fully formed master's program in health information technology really builds on the kind of intellectual strengths of those 3 units. And so you see really strong coursework in computer and information systems, information management, database architecture, some of the cybersecurity kinds of courses that are available to you as electives. But then it's also complemented and supplemented with that strong health backbone. And so the economics of healthcare, the use of healthcare data and the management of healthcare data, both from an ethical perspective, but also from that kind of legal regulatory perspective, because it is subject to all of the HIPAA requirements as well. And so what I like about the program is that it is broad enough, sort of big-shouldered enough to support a wide range of ultimate student professional aspirations, whether it's working for the Centers for Disease Control, helping analyze data on large clinical trials like the vaccine trials currently underway for coronavirus, or really partnering with healthcare institutions, whether it is DMC or Henry Ford Health System, Meridian Healthcare, or HAP. All of our local providers are really trying to use data science in order to drive patients, right, to early screening, early diagnosis, the best possible treatments, so that we have the highest quality and quantity of life for the lowest healthcare cost. So when we do that well, it really feels like a win-win. So that's kind of my take on where a Master of Science in Health Information Technology really sits within the fields of public health and medicine.
I muted myself and I forgot. Thanks, Patricia.
You're welcome.
All right, so let's go back to our slides here. So some of the things that you need to know, but the less fancy and exciting, are the academic policies and procedures that you will need to be familiar with as you kind of make your way through your program. So when we send this document, all of these pieces will be clickable links to the actual policy, whether it be on the Office of the Registrar's webpage or in the university catalog. I'm not going to click around them now because Jonathan and I can kind of give you a general representation of what each of these things mean. But you will have access to this information and the specific policies after today as well. So the first thing that I always like to point out is the academic calendar. There are different deadlines that sometimes students can be unfamiliar with that are beneficial to you in a lot of ways. So for example, during the first 2 weeks of classes every term, if we're talking about a fall or a winter term, we call this the add drop period. So students have the ability to continue adding classes or changing your schedule right up until the second week of classes, which for the fall semester will be September 15th. So this gives you the opportunity to kind of test drive your classes. If you're working full-time or part-time and you're kind of trying to decide whether you should do school part-time or full-time, or how many classes you're going to be able to manage in your life right now, it kind of gives you the opportunity to think big and hope that you'll be able to take, more than you might, and test drive those. And then if you've got a class that's tipping you over, it gives you time to decide whether you need to drop that class before the September 15th deadline. So as long as you drop classes before that add drop period, there's no transcript penalty and no financial penalty. So you wouldn't owe tuition for that class. And that's one of the great things about UM-Dearborn, is that you don't actually pay your tuition until that add drop period. So you're really only paying for the courses that you actually intend to take. So you don't have to worry about getting refunds back or anything like that for something that you drop.
Yeah. And we should say, Lindsay, that full-time enrollment really is quite different at the graduate level. And so, we have a healthy respect for working professionals, and a great many of you today on the orientation call are wearing scrubs and are in healthcare settings and are working, frontline healthcare workers. And so we've really built a program that is intended to be completed at your own pace. And so the coursework is rigorous and the demands are really high, and you're making personal and professional sacrifices to go back and get this graduate degree. So it is a program that is small in size at 30 credits, but sort of big in stature in terms of what is possible upon completion. So that academic calendar and sort of the ability to shop for classes, and the good news is it's a little bit different than sort of fighting to get into undergraduate courses. There's sort of a narrow lane that you're operating in that we try to the fullest extent possible to be protective of for you.
Great, thank you. So a couple of other things about the academic calendar as well, outside of the add drop period, is toward the end of the semester. There are also deadlines if you need to withdraw from the full semester for any reason. There's a point in time where you can actually get 50% of your tuition and fees back. And then past that period, there's another deadline for selectively dropping courses in the semester. And then finally, a final period where you can withdraw from the semester completely. And I just like to cover these things, not on the negative side in anticipation anybody's going to need to drop, but often students don't realize there are these opportunities and these deadlines that go along with them. So if life does happen in the middle of the semester, as it did for everyone in the winter semester, please know that these deadlines and options are available to you, and Jonathan and I can also help you sort through them as well. Also, the waitlist policy is another thing that we always like to point out. The waitlist policy, I think, is handled differently on different campuses. So on our campus, our waitlist is actually managed by our Office of Registrar, and it's done manually. So as students add themselves to a waitlist for a course, as students drop the course, they're manually moved over at different points throughout the day to the class. So if you ever see that there's a class that looks like there's a seat open, but there are people on the wait list, it's because the registrar's office is moving them in. And so we typically do that kind of like first in line. So if you are looking to register for a class, or you're thinking you want to get a seat in a class or keep it open as an option, but it's full, we always recommend you put yourself on the wait list for that course, because that's the best way to ensure yourself the opportunity to take it. And it's a first come, first serve sort of process. So that policy is available on the registrar's website, and so that's linked there for you as well. And we'll also show you how to register for the waitlist for courses as well, because that can be a little bit tricky. So we'll show you that in the registration portion. The instructor initiated drop is one that I wanted to mention, because it's going to be brand new starting in the fall of 2020. So this really has to do with attendance. So while we do not require attendance on our campus as a general policy, we do want to make sure that you're connecting with your faculty members or attending class in that first week, because for classes, particularly for classes that do have wait lists, if students aren't showing up for the first week, your instructor may utilize this policy to drop you from the class to add in a student from the wait list. So if for any reason you're unable to make it to class or anything like that the first week of classes, just always make sure you're checking in with your faculty member so they know what the situation is, so you don't accidentally get dropped from your class, because this is something that the instructor can initiate. They will always reach out to you first before they follow through on this, but just making sure everybody is aware of that particular policy. Also, transfer of credit. If you do take classes off campus, or Minal, I know that you were looking to maybe transfer some classes in from Texas. So there is a process for that. The main thing I just want to cover here is that the maximum number of transfer credits into your program from a non-U of M institution would be a total of 6 credits. So that's typically 2 classes, 3 credits apiece. So that's the general policy around transfer credit, and there are forms that are associated with that. I think, Manal, that you had already started this process, so she's a veteran in transferring credit.
That is true. Yeah, we've been reviewing transcripts and other materials, so I think we're in good shape.
Wonderful. So if anybody else does need to transfer credit in a similar way, the transfer of credit policy will be here for you, but Jonathan and I will also be able to help you through that process as well. Petitions. So there may be classes, for example, that you want to take as an elective, but don't show up on that elective list. One of the ways to get that class as part of your plan of study would be able to petition a substitution. And so there's a petition form that's linked on this page as well. It's an electronic form. You fill out your request. So for example, if you wanted to take a course in psychology or like organizational psychology is one of your electives, you could petition to take that as an elective and with your justification. And that might be something specific about an opportunity you have at work, or a different spin or expertise area that you're interested in getting and including in your program. So there is some flexibility there with substitution of classes. Another common petition that we see at the graduate level is time to completion extensions. So generally speaking, we accept graduate credit for 5 years. And then at that point, it would expire. But you do have the option to petition an extension on that time. So if for some reason you had to separate from the university for a period of time and then finish later on in your life, which happens, you would have the option to petition to still include all the courses you had already taken as part of your program. And those generally are accepted unless there's some massive change in your program for some reason. So just kind of general idea about petitions. The petitions also tie into your electronic plan of study that you'll see online. And we'll kind of cover that a little bit later as we get closer to the technology tools part of it.
Yeah. And I would say that we have a lot of great courses. Just continue to keep in mind that you're looking for those at the graduate level. So they should be 500 and above. And then it'll certainly help expedite at least the review of your petition if you're drawing from the rich kind of graduate school offerings, both within our college, but elsewhere on campus.
Yes, great. Thank you for mentioning that. Just a couple other academic policies and procedures for you. Academic standing, just so you know what the expectations are for your success in your program. We're going to be looking at a 3.0 overall GPA throughout the course of your program. So anything below that would result in academic probation. So there's essentially 3 levels as part of this process. So your first semester below the overall required minimum GPA, you're going to get a letter from us that says you're on probation. We're going to encourage that you meet with your advisor, which would be Jonathan or I. And we'll start talking about what are the things that are causing you trouble, whether it be in your classes or it might be time barriers or attendance barriers, any other things that might be happening that create issues or challenges in your academic success. And we try to help you alleviate some of those things. That might mean taking less credits in a semester. It could potentially mean taking a different class, things like that. So in a second semester below the overall required minimum, you would be on continuing probation, and this time you're going to be required to meet with an advisor. Often what we'll do at this point is some sort of progress contract, so you may be prescribed very specific steps to take in the following semester. In your third semester below the required minimum GPA, that would be a required to withdraw from the program. So nobody ever enters a program anticipating being on academic standing. So we really just cover this because it's a policy and we want to make sure you all know what's expected, but really what we want is to prevent it from happening in the first place. So if there are things that are posing challenges or barriers to you as you go through your classes, as you go through the different policies and procedures that you navigate on campus, if there's anything that we can help you with, the sooner you let us know, the more options Jonathan and I will have for you, similarly as the academic calendar has those different deadlines. So the sooner we know that there might be an issue, the more options we'll have to have you navigate and protect your academic success. And also, as Dr. Fossum had mentioned before, your faculty members are invaluable resources to you. So if you're struggling with any content, they are incredible supports and certainly the best people to reach out to. If you are having issues with content in your class, it's always going to be the first question Jonathan and I ask is if you've talked to your faculty members. So that would be a good first step, absolutely. But moral to the story is the sooner we know there's any sort of challenge, the more options we'll have for you. And finally, along with academic standing, is our repeat course policy. So Danielle, this is going to be a little different for you because the undergraduate policy does allow you to replace courses when you repeat. At the graduate level, it's different. If you do repeat a course, it averages out those 2 grades. So it often, unless you really got a low grade in one of your classes, it really doesn't make sense to repeat courses often. So that's something that Jonathan and I can also help you navigate if there is an academic standing issue and whether you're deciding to repeat a course or not. So another thing we just like to point out that you're not replacing a grade when you repeat, you're averaging out the 2 attempts. Any questions before we move past some of this more logistical detailed stuff? Awesome. Whoops. Jonathan, can I hand it off to you to do some campus resources?
Certainly. So I just want to explain some of the campus resources that are available to you as a graduate student at UM-Dearborn. A lot of times students think that these are only for undergraduate students. However, that's a huge misconception. As a student at Dearborn, these are all a part of the availability of resources available to help you. So counseling and psychological services is in the University Center. Of course, they're doing virtual type appointments. So this is free of charge to you as a student. So please feel free to, if you're having any types of concerns or issues, personally or professionally, that you just want to talk to somebody about, this is a great resource on campus. And I'll just kind of go down the list. So disability services, this is again a resource available to you as a student at Dearborn. And if you have a learning disability or anything that is going to prevent potential academic success, this office, you're required or you're asked to work with this office to then have faculty provide accommodations, whether it's like test taking or note taking, that type of thing. A lot of times students, especially at the undergrad level, don't realize that this is an option, or it's really on them to kind of get this service activated. So we just want to make sure that you're aware of that service as well. And if you have any questions about any of these after the presentation, Lindsay and I or any of the faculty can kind of talk to you about this. Financial aid is the next office that Lindsay and I probably have the most questions get asked to us that we have to refer you to. So they are the ones that are going to be able to help you with any loans or grants that you're getting for your graduate program, anything like that. They are the go-to. So again, in the University Center building, but they are able to access a lot of that financial information about your tuition, scholarships, that type of stuff. Office of International Affairs is really for international students that have questions about visas, any of those kind of things that we need to do, OPT, CPT, some of these curricular things tied to your academics and your visa. So if you have any kind of questions, they are the best to help, and we rely on them quite often to help us navigate some of the legal and challenges of our federal government's policies on student visas and stuff like that. The registrar's office, again, is a kind of a multifaceted office. It's called enrollment services at certain places, so helping you register for classes if you're getting these weird errors. Lindsay and I can definitely help, but sometimes they have the magical powers to get things done that we can't get done. They also have transcripts available to you, and there's a lot of things are online that the registrar's office does. But we'll and if you have questions about some of this too, please let us know. The library, again, is going to be your kind of asset for any kind of research and anything you do. And we also have a chess-specific librarian, Raya, who can definitely help you, and we can give that information as well about her and her availability to help you with research, kind of making sure when you're citing sources and stuff and you're not plagiarizing, really being your kind of go-to person. And she is specific to our college. So she has office hours in our building. Her main office is over in the university or in the library. But again, I'm sure in graduate programs you'll be doing some kind of research and papers. This is a great resource to have. And she is definitely a very friendly and welcoming person, encourages you to reach out to her. There is a student food pantry on campus, so if you are having any food insecurities or anything like that, or you hear of somebody on campus that is maybe having this, please refer them. It's free of charge, they have no questions asked kind of thing. Food insecurity is a huge deal in our region, and a lot of times students, we don't want to have students have to make the choice between tuition and eating. So, and this is for, you know, you and your family to take advantage of. And it's definitely a valued resource on our campus.
Yes. And still open, even while we're doing everything else virtually. So you can still, all of these services remain open, and that includes the food pantry for students and families who are in need. And there's some data to suggest that graduate students are even more hard hit in this. And so we want to make sure that you know about this important resource that we support in HHS.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Wren. The Talent Gateway is just as kind of, as you can kind of see, it's a kind of an office that does multiple things. The most common for graduate students is the career services component, I would say, of this office that does a lot more with resume writing, interview techniques, all these kind of things that sometimes students think of at the undergrad, but in the grad level, when you're advancing your career, sometimes it's the different things you need to do to polish up your resume, to talk about internships, that type of stuff. Internships are coordinated through our office, so the Office of Student Success and Dr. Shazia Khan and Samika will be your kind of go-tos. The next office, Center for Social Justice and Inclusion, kind of all in the title. So it's, you know, an office that does a lot of programming and different things on campus. So again, as a graduate student, you are welcome to attend or reach out to these offices if you need any types of support. Women's Resource Center is included into this. There's the Veterans Affairs office is under this umbrella. The LGBTQ office is underneath this umbrella. So it's kind of a broad, encompassing office. And then last but not least is the Writing Center. So a lot of times students struggle with sometimes the curricular demands of papers and projects. And so the Writing Center is available to really help you with some of these ins and outs of papers and citing and different things. And it can be working with Raya in the library as well to kind of support you all around so that your papers are at a graduate level and different kinds of things. So again, a variety of resources. We'll send you these. You can click on the links, explore, and if you have questions about them, please just let Lindsay or I or any of your faculty know. And then I'll pass it. What's our next one?
Our next one is technology tools. So we're getting really close to registration at this point for those of you who haven't registered yet. But I do always like to share the tech tools that are available to you as well, because they're free of use to you. And so it's great to be able to utilize some of these resources, particularly if you're working on group projects and things like that where you need a shared space. So I'm going to click on this one and show you the page that it goes to. This is just the general students page that you can get to off the University of Michigan-Dearborn's homepage. This is where you would get to if you clicked on students in the top black bar here. But essentially, this is kind of your portal to all of the things that you'll be interacting with as a student on campus. So for those of you who may not be familiar with Canvas, Canvas is essentially, it's what we would call our learning management system. Other campuses have tools like WebAdvisor or Blackboard, different technologies like that. It's mostly what you would interact with when you're turning in assignments. If you're taking an online class, this is where your class is going to be housed mostly. If there's discussion posts, things like that, you would do all of these things through the Canvas tool. Your classes will show up kind of as tiles on your main page, so you'll be able to click back and forth between them. I will say if you are currently registered and you go into your Canvas page, you're not going to see those things because most of the time your class isn't published until either the week before your class starts or maybe even the day of. So it's not uncommon if you don't see anything until the day classes start. That's pretty common. But you'll be able to review the syllabi here. And so back to thinking about that add drop period, one of the things I always recommend is if you are considering taking on a full-time load and you're not sure if that's gonna work, starting out with gathering those syllabi and kind of laying everything out on a calendar with your work schedule and your personal schedule and all the things that have to work together in your life and seeing if that feels like it's gonna be manageable. I think sometimes the visual of having everything on a calendar can really represent what, heavy times of the year are going to look like and can really help you make those decisions in the first 2 weeks. Because largely you're not going to get really into the content enough to know, but that schedule, looking out at it across the course of an entire term is really helpful. So Canvas is what you're going to use to largely submit your assignments and all of those types of things. We use Gmail on campus as our platform for the UMich email address. For those of you who use Gmail, it's a great, pretty self-explanatory, user-friendly tool or platform for email. The one thing that we request is that when you're communicating with any campus office, your advisors, your faculty members, financial aid, so on and so forth, that you send those emails from your UMich account. So we do have students who like to have their UMich account forwarded to an account that they use more regularly, and that's totally fine if you do that. We just ask that when you're reaching out to us that you respond from your UMich account. The reason for that is just it protects you. The only way we know that we're communicating with you, Maria, the student, is by you emailing us from the email address that's assigned to you. So it's really more for your protection as a student. Box is really similar to Google Drive for those of you who might have used Google Drive before, or Dropbox. It's essentially an online filing cabinet. So if you are working on a group project in one of your classes, this would be a great place to kind of have a shared file storage system and location for all of those things to work on a group project or a team project. And along with that, you do have access to the full Google Suite. So you see today I'm using Google Slides. You can use those for your classes. All of the G Suite stuff that is normally included is accessible to you. And some classes, I think, even utilize Google Classroom every now and then for some of the assignments as well. The main thing that we're going to kind of go through today is UM-Dearborn Connect, and I'm going to show you DegreeWorks, which is what I mentioned earlier when we were talking about petitions. DegreeWorks is going to be your plan of study, essentially, but it's your personal plan of study. So it's essentially a checklist of all the requirements for your program, and as you take classes, they light green for you, and there's a nice little checkbox, and for any of the classes that you still need, they show up as red and still needed. So, oh, and then anything in progress is going to show up blue. So if you're currently registered for the fall term already, those classes are going to show up in blue with a little squiggly line. I always forget what that's called. But it's nice and clear. It's nice and colorful and easy to follow. So we'll show you what that looks like as well. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. See what our next slide was going to be. Whoop. Okay, yeah, so we're going to move on to registration. So I'm going to do a quick demo for you. So if you've already registered, bear with me. I won't take too long.
Hey, Lindsay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can we actually ask who has not registered? Because I was just looking to see, and I saw Danielle has, Maria has, Taylor has. Manal, have you registered already for classes for fall? Okay.
Yes, I have.
Okay, wow, this is like, we're like
group.
ahead of the curve, holy cow.
I had feelings about this group.
Yes, that's exciting. So one thing that we've just talked about, and I want to make sure because this is being shared, is if you were a student at UM-Dearborn, and especially if you were a student in a health and human services major at some point, so whether that's health policy studies, community health, our child life, public health, or even in the new HHS, some of the courses in the master's program are similar or the same type of course at the graduate level. And so Danielle, this is one of those things we'll have to pay special attention to, is we don't want you repeating courses that you've already taken at the undergrad because they can't count between undergrad and grad. And so we will find electives for you that we will kind of help you petition. So for example, I think you took like a medical information systems as an undergrad, and it's also required in the grad program. We're not going to make you take it twice. So we will come up with a elective for you that's you know, in line with your interests and passions, but also in the HHS field, because there's so many new classes out there at the graduate level that we can definitely get you. I just wanted to make sure that that sometimes catches students as they were an undergraduate student at Dearborn. And then when they're a master, sometimes they don't realize of these little kind of rules that kick in. But Yeah, because I was just looking at DegreeWorks and I was like, wow, like everybody is registered. So this is, usually we we don't have this kind of thing. So
But that's good. We've got a computer savvy group heading into our, computer savvy field. So I'm already feeling good about this.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not going to go over registration then, but I will go over some other pieces just to point out UM-Dearborn Connect. And thank you, Jonathan, for thinking about the undergraduate and graduate crosses, particularly for that medical information systems class. So yeah, Danielle, we'll definitely work with you to make sure that you have a course to replace that with that accomplishes an expertise area that you're interested in pursuing.
Okay.
All right, so I am going to click on UM-Dearborn Connect, and it sounds like you likely have already seen DegreeWorks, but I will just point out a few things on this main page as well. Even before you log into UM-Dearborn Connect, you kind of have access to some resources. If you are looking for electives and you're wanting to see the course description for different things, the best place to see that is the course catalog. So you have access to that even without logging in. And same thing with the class schedule. So for example, in the winter semester, the schedule is typically released sometime toward the beginning of October, even though registration doesn't start into the first week in November. So you often have this 3 to 4 week period where you can review the schedule, but it's not time to register yet. So it gives you this planning period. And that's really where Jonathan and I always send out advising campaigns just to give you a little reminder that it's, the schedule's been released, it's time to meet so that we can talk about what you should be taking in the next term. So you'll be able to review that class schedule here. Also, there's always buttons that the registrar's office puts together for the online course offerings. So right now in the summer, we're all online, so these are kind of a moot point. But in the future, when you're looking for specifically online classes, this is a great tool. It's not real pretty, but it does just give a list in alphabetical order of all of the classes that are offered only online. So it's nice that you can kind of pull those out of the schedule. But I am going to click on Enter Secure Area and show you a couple of things. All right, so you're going to see a page that looks somewhat like this. This is where you registered for classes. So you're going to have these 3 tabs here for personal information, student services, and financial aid. So most of you have already gone to your student services page and you've registered. But I always like to point out too, the student records button where that's where you'll review your grades. So once they're posted at the end of each term, you'll be able to see your final grades there, and also your full transcript. So you can print unofficial versions and also request official versions of your UM-Dearborn transcript here. Student account is where you'll pay your tuition bill. And then DegreeWorks is the button where you'll see your electronic plan of study. So just a couple tabs that I'll point out there. Financial aid is where you'll be able to view your financial aid award or the status of your application for any sort of scholarship. And it's also where you would accept that award. So there is a process. Once you've been awarded financial aid, there is often a step that's on you to accept that as well. So just be sure to check out that tab and also be connected with financial aid if that's the case for you. And then the last thing I wanted to point out was the personal information tab. What I would highly recommend for you all to do today, if you haven't already, is to sign up for the emergency alerts. Anytime we have a snow day on campus, or if there's something dangerous happening on campus. I remember a few years ago, there was a tiny fire in the engineering building, or smoke anyway, that we thought was fire. And so, everybody gets a text on campus to make sure you're staying away from that area. So I would highly recommend, putting in the cell phone that you use most often there, so that if we do have a weather day or something like that, you'll get the text right away. So I think that's all we had for you. And since you're all already registered, I'm not going to bore you with that portion of it. So what questions do you all have for us?
I have a question actually.
Yeah.
So I did register, but I registered for in-person classes. I know with everything going on as we start to reopen and with everything going on with the coronavirus, we're all just taking caution. But what's going to happen in the fall? Because I know with some colleges right now, they're changing everything online, especially for even if people already registered to take in-person classes. Will that be the case when fall comes around, or Is there anything I would need to change or do to prepare, or is everything just gonna stay the same as we proceed forward?
Yeah.
That's my main concern.
Yeah. I'll at least take first crack at this, and my colleagues may join me. Stein may join me as well as the associate dean. We're trying to be really proactive in health and human services, and we want, as a college, to take seriously the words in our title, right? And we feel like we have to model really good behavior for the campus. And so one of the things that we wanted to do, and we were asked to do this earlier in the springtime, as we were sort of making our way into summer, was to be thoughtful about fall. And so one of the things that we wanted to do within our department was to provide some continuity and some assurances to our students. We wanted to be able to honestly deliver and faithfully deliver the courses that are on our schedule with all of the rigor and all of the authenticity that you would come to expect. And so we actually, as a department, made a decision, all of our faculty at every level, undergraduate and grad, that we are both prepared and willing to offer all of our courses fully online in the fall. And we said this so that we would have the most minimal kind of impact or footprint on the campus community that we could have. We obviously, like all universities, will be implementing new restrictions around physical distancing, the number of persons who can be physically present in a classroom of a particular size, and all of the demands on housekeeping and cleaning services in order to protect all of the faculty, staff, and students on our campus. And so we really wanted to model, at least for the campus, really good practices and be protective of that enterprise. So I think the sort of longish answer, Danielle, is that we are fully expecting that within our department, we'll be offering classes fully online in fall. Now, you may remember that I also said our origin story involves 2 other colleges on our campus. And so where a data science course might be offered by the College of Business, or where a network security class might come out of the College of Engineering and Computer Science, those things we don't control over in Chess. And so that's where you're going to have to kind of pay a little closer attention. The rubric for your courses, the course codes, will help tell that story. All of ours are either HHS or HIT. And so you will know those are courses that we control. Any ISM course or other class is something that comes out of a different unit. And so we really want students to sort of begin and end their fall semester in the same manner of instruction, so that we really thought that it was a good idea and a good practice that students could kind of sort of have that entire linear arc of a class in the same delivery system. So that's at least the plan that we have made in HHS.
Okay.
I can actually add a little bit to that as well. I don't know 100% for sure, but I have also talked to the Director of Advising in the College of Business, and it sounds like their plan as well is to largely hold the classes for their college online. So it is my understanding that the ISM classes, DS classes, so on and so forth, will also be offered online. There may be some exceptions to that rule. So for now, for those classes, I would, keep in mind the dates and times. In case there is some sort of in-person portion, maybe it will move to online or hybrid, and maybe they're just 1 day a week. The other thing that some of the faculty members are doing across campus is that while the class will be offered online, there will be some synchronous sessions. So you might have like a Zoom meeting, and that's not necessarily going to be 2 times a week, but there would potentially be an in-person or a timed component to the course. And those instructors would do it within the period of time that the course is currently scheduled for. So just keep those things in mind. That's a great question.
Yep.
Good.
Any other questions from our students?
Yeah.
Well, y'all are making it way too easy on us.
Seriously, how do I get you all in all my classes?
All right. Well, the good news is we don't disappear at the end of this Zoom. You might not be able to see our faces anymore, but we are still here for you. You can reach us. You can reach Jonathan and I at the Office of Student Success. I will send that. I'm going to stop sharing my screen real quick here, and I'll send that through the chat so you all have it kind of first and foremost. It always wants to correct my spelling of chess to chess. All right, there we go. You should have it in the chat now. So if you have any questions, you can always reach us there. If there is a need for an in-person conversation or a live conversation rather than going back and forth in email, we are absolutely available for phone conversations as well as video virtual advising appointments throughout the course of the summer and fall as well. So if you need anything, we're just an email away.
You bet.
Okay. Well, that concludes our session for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to interacting with you more very soon.
Yeah, greetings, congratulations, welcome, all of it. Rest up, have good summers, stay home to the extent possible, stay well and safe to the extent possible, and we look forward to greeting you in the fall.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Great to see you. Have a good time.